Hello everybody, I hope you are having a wonderful day. Welcome to my video. I am currently in Dharamsala, India, and I've been here for about a month and a half now, really just exploring quite a lot, seeing a lot of places, doing some touristy stuff, but mostly I've been focusing on studying and learning, especially Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, a little bit of Buddhism, because Dharamsala, where I am right now, is where the Dalai Lama is. So this is sort of where the Dalai Lama came after going into exile, after Tibet was taken over by the Chinese government. So I spent the first couple weeks traveling around the Golden Triangle in India. So this is where Delhi is. You have Jaipur, you have Agra, where the Taj Mahal is. I went to Varanasi for about a week, which was an interesting experience because it's sort of like a spiritual stronghold in India. There's a lot happening there, a lot of spiritual beliefs and traditions and different things. Then the last couple of weeks I had a motorbike. I was traveling around the Himalayas a little bit, or the Himalayan foothills, just seeing different ashrams. And yeah, just exploring some of the countryside, which is really beautiful. The Himalayas is definitely beautiful. I haven't been up to the high Himalayas yet, where you have all the snow-capped mountains and it's super high altitude. But like just these areas are quite nice, and it's really nice just traveling around and seeing different things. So as I was traveling around the Himalayas, just exploring different places and going to different ashrams, I had this experience where I actually met a real-life guru, which was a pretty cool experience. I was driving past this place with my partner, so it was an ashram just in this small town, sort of in the middle of nowhere, so we didn't really expect to stay there or to go there, but as we were driving past, we noticed that the ashram had some sort of event. So a lot of people were coming in, they had some sort of religious ceremony or something was happening. I couldn't really understand it because no one really spoke English there. And this is sort of in the middle of nowhere. I can't recall the name of the place, but if I remember, I'll write it down in the comments. Anyway, so we went in and sort of just joined the crowd, sitting down, listening to the music and the ceremonies, and didn't really know what was happening, but that's okay. Part of it's just to be in the energy of it and, have the experience. That's philosophy that I hold dear to myself when I'm traveling, is just experience things, go with the flow, just see what happens, because often the best experiences happen when you don't have any expectations and you're not really looking for something. Rather, you're just going with it, you're taking invitations as long as it feels okay, as long as you're not going against your intuition or anything. And again, just go with the flow and see what happens. So we stayed for about half an hour. We were about to leave, and some person's like, "Hey, come with me. I want to show you somewhere." Again, he didn't speak any English, so there's a bit of a communication barrier, but no problem. So we decided, why not? Let's go with this guy, see what he wants. So we walked up like this path with him to the back of the ashram, and there was this little like food area where, if you've ever been to India, you'll know that in ashrams they often offer prasad, which is sort of just like feeding people. So it's a philosophy that's pretty important to a lot of gurus and spiritual practitioners, is that they believe it's a good sign or good karma to offer food and to feed people. And especially in this ashram, so the old guru a few generations back, who was apparently quite a powerful guru and had some powers, or again, cities, he was quite famous for materializing food. So there's a lot of stories of him just taking out food and feeding like hundreds and hundreds of people from a small bowl, and it would just never run out. And you hear quite a few of these different stories when you're in India about the different, spiritual powers and different gurus and how they're connected, and there's a lot happening here which is super interesting. Anyway, so we had the prasad, we had a full meal, they gave us some coffee, and again, we're about to walk out, said thank you. Then he's like, no, like one more thing, come with me. So again, we decided to follow him. And again, like this isn't really knowing what's going on or where we're going, but we're there, why not? Let's see what this guy wants to say. Worst case scenario, like he just asked for a donation, we give him $1 or something. So not much to lose either way, because unfortunately, that does happen in India a lot as well. People try and coerce you into paying them money for something, whether it's a donation, whether it's they're just trying to get money off you. You see quite a lot of that and a lot of scams as well. So part of part of traveling in India is one side of it, you want to be open to things. The other side of it, you're always a little bit careful or cautious because there are a lot of scammers here. There are a lot of people who want to take advantage of especially foreigners, and you do tend to stick out because, you know, a lot of these places, there's not so many foreigners. Anyway, so we went with him and he sat us down like in front of this sort of balcony thing, and there was a few like sadhu looking people who were sitting like at the end of this balcony overlooking the ashram. And one guy was sitting like in a meditative pose. He had a lot of like beads and he had long hair. Another guy was dressed in orange, like sitting on a little chair. And there's a couple like followers or something around them just worshipping him, or I don't really know what was happening, but something along those lines. Anyway, so we sat down, sort of perplexed, like, why are we here? What's the point of this? And one of the guys was like, Guru, Guru, Guru. I'm like, okay, well, let's go in, let's see what this is about. So we sat there for about 10 minutes until we were called into this little, again, like balcony sort of thing. It wasn't super big. And there's a couple other people there as well, just sitting down, sort of waiting, I guess. We didn't really know what we were waiting for, but what is interesting is, as soon as I sat down, I noticed this very powerful energy wash over me. And it's interesting because I've never really had an experience like this, but pretty much as soon as I sat down, it felt like I was high, like really high. And it almost got to the point where it was overwhelming, but sort of in a good way. I wouldn't say like there's any negative connotation, not really a positive connotation either. It's just like an energy, an intense energy. I felt it all throughout my body, throughout my mind, throughout like every part of me, just permeating my being, which is again a super interesting feeling because this happened just as we were sitting like in the presence of this guru. Even though I had no idea who this guy was, I was a little bit skeptical, like to some degree. I still am a bit skeptical of gurus. Like I do believe in some of the things, but I'm also, you know, not fully on board with a lot of the things that I hear. But when I had this super visceral, intense sensation, I'm like, whoa, this is interesting, something's happening. And I turned to my partner and I'm like, I feel really weird right now. Like, I feel some super intense energy. And she's like, yeah, I feel the same way. So what's even more interesting is that she felt the same way as I was feeling at the same time when we just entered the presence of this guru. So maybe this is a good sign that this is a genuine guru. And like in these cultures, they often see gurus as like a doorway to ultimate reality or to God. That through the guru, it's sort of like a bridge. And this is how you experience things, or you can connect to God through the guru. Like I don't fully understand it, but from what I've been researching and learning and hearing from different people and just learning along this path is that like genuine gurus are super powerful spiritual beings, and being in this presence, I sort of felt like I was in the presence of some powerful being, which was really cool. And this sensation only lasted for maybe a minute. It started to die down and I just felt sort of like relaxed and at peace and calm. And we waited there for about half an hour, not really knowing what was happening because we weren't really like addressed by the guru or anything. We were just sort of sitting there waiting with a few other people. And a group of Indian ladies came to sit next to us and said, luckily a couple of them spoke English, and they're sort of explaining a bit about the guru and who he is. And they said that we're very lucky to be here right now because this is a rare opportunity and usually he's not here. And that pretty much we'll wait for his blessing, then we can leave after that. So yeah, we're like, okay, let's see what happens, we'll just wait here. Eventually the guru left to this like little temple that was maybe like 50 meters away, maybe less. And one of the other guys in the ashram, like someone who was working there, I guess, didn't speak a whole lot of English, but he sort of ushered us in and said, the guru's ready to see you now. So we walked in and sat in front of him, and yeah, same thing, like we're sort of just sitting there looking at him, he was looking at us. We didn't really know what to say or what to do considering we don't speak Hindi. And like even though we had a guy who was like a translator, he didn't speak much English either. So It was, to say the least, a pretty unprofound conversation. It's more just like, how are you? Where are you coming from? Um, and, that was about it. Then he gave us some blessed bananas and sent us on our way pretty much. So as we went out of this little temple, he's like brought the other people in. They had this quick blessing. Same thing, walked out with bananas, and then he came out and sat like close to us. And he was sort of just sitting there like looking at me. And the other guy who was there, like one of the people in the ashram, said, like, now is a good opportunity to meditate in the presence of the guru if you want. Like, you're free to go, but if you want to meditate, this is a very special moment to do so, because supposedly you can get very deep into your meditation and you can connect to different energies or realms or different things, I guess, if you are meditating in the presence of a guru. And this guy was supposedly a genuine guru as well. So he was, again, I don't fully understand it. I'm not going to pretend that I understand it, but like the next in the line. So I guess they have some sort of like lineage or something where they have a primary disciple and they pass their powers or something onto that person, and they sort of take over after the older guru passes on. But unfortunately, I had a class I didn't have much time because I had to teach a class of English. As I'm traveling, I also teach English just to make a bit of money while I'm traveling. And we still had about an hour drive left until we got to the town that we were going, where we could check in and everything. So unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity to meditate in front of the guru, even though I thought, it would be an interesting experience. And therefore, I ended up leaving, and yeah, really, that's my encounter with the guru. Like, he didn't say much, didn't hear much, but I did have this strong feeling just being in his presence. And since I've been here in India, I've really been learning a lot more about these traditions and like different sages and gurus and saints and things, because it's sort of like a rabbit hole. In Hinduism, there's just so much to it, and there's so much in Sanatana Dharma, which is sort of like the skeleton of Hinduism before it was sort of watered down. At least that's the way that I perceive it. And I spent some time in different ashrams as well. So I spent a couple days in the ashram of Babaji, which again was supposed to be a very powerful, self-aware guru, or self-realized guru who materialized and has had multiple incarnations. So the story of this guy is pretty interesting as well, because his first incarnation was, I believe, the teacher of Paramahansa Yogananda. I think that's his name, the guy from Autobiography of a Yogi. I might have butchered his name there, so don't hold that against me if I did, but it's something along those lines. Indian names are hard. It's hard enough to remember everything that's happening, let alone some of these names that are like this long on paper. Anyway, so that was supposedly his first incarnation that taught him that. And the ashram that I went to was his second incarnation, where he materialized in a cave that was close to this ashram. So he started the ashram there. And yeah, it's just interesting being there. Like, it's a beautiful place in the mountains. It has this huge riverbed, and they really just teach the philosophies and stuff of and practice the practices of Babaji in that ashram. And yeah, like, I also saw the ashram of Neem Karoli Baba, which was nice as well, but it was super busy. It wasn't really an intimate experience because it was just so busy. You can't really actually spend time there. It's just like one walkway. Everyone's sort of like pushing each other and giving offerings, and it's super noisy and loud. So it's not really a relaxing place where you can just sort of steep in, I guess, the energy of the place and the traditions and things like that. So, since I've been here in India, and really focusing my attention on these different studies and learning about these different philosophies and things, it's really just opening up my mind in many different ways, especially realizing that Hinduism, there's so many different parts to it, because it's not just like one philosophy. It's not just based on one scripture like Christianity, for example, but there's many different scriptures. You have the Vedas, you have the Bhagavad Gita, you have a lot of different things that is sort of like a compilation, and there's no real like strict structure to Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. But there are a lot of different branches in this side of the world, because of course you have like the renunciates and the sadhus who are walking their own path of spiritual liberation through renouncing all of their worldly possessions, which it's just an interesting concept to see that, because in our society, in Western society, we don't really have this. Like, the closest you can get to renouncing everything is sort of like being a hermit, maybe growing your own food and living off the grid a little bit, but you don't see it to the extent that you see it here, where people are really deeply enwebbed in their own spiritual practice and their own spiritual pursuits, that they sacrifice everything in their life to do it. And I do have a lot of respect for these people as well who do follow these paths, and, you know, especially the sadhus, the genuine sadhus who renounce everything, and they renounce their identity, they renounce their ego, they renounce their possessions and belongings, and they have no home, so they're homeless. They renounce their image. So often they're like they look homeless, they play the part, but, you know, they're also doing this by choice because they're deeply committed to their spiritual pathway. And in saying that, it's just an interesting concept to sort of wrap your head around, and especially the path of renunciation, the path of getting rid of everything, because most of us can't even comprehend that. And in Western society, we don't really have, society is not built for that. Here, there's sort of like a framework where it's more socially acceptable for people to just renounce everything and, you know, be homeless and walk across the Himalayas with the bare feet. In our society, you're going to have problems if you do that. If you decide to renounce everything and you say, you know, I don't want to have any possessions, I don't want to have any money, I just want to like beg or forage for food or just like survive and get completely in tune with the rawness of nature, with the rawness of life, without occupying our time with work and family and friends and social life and finances and all this, like, people are going to think you're sick or you're weird or you're mad or you're crazy, and, you know, you might have brushes with the police, people will try to help you. So it's really interesting just being here in this culture where it's so much more accepting, and there are so many different spiritual pathways that people are walking, and you see it openly. It's sort of like this giant puzzle of different practices and different traditions and different modalities and different pathways that people are walking to try and find liberation, or try to find this deeper essence of who they are that transcends this material body, that transcends everything that we are experiencing, you know, right here, because we are so tied into this paradigm of having stuff, of having things, of needing to be someone, to do something, to have a nice house, to have a nice car, that we forget that, you know, spiritual practice should be one of the highest priorities in our lives. But simply in Western society, we just don't have the time for it, because if we do have spare time, then usually we need to relax a little bit because we're busy, we're always going, we're always doing things. And then if we do have some time, then maybe, you know, we'll practice yoga for an hour, or we'll practice something else for a little while, or do half an hour of meditation, or go to church. But I guess everyone has their own way to spirituality, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. There's nothing wrong with following beaten paths like Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism. And the thing about these religions or these spiritual pathways is, you know, they're beaten for a reason. Like, they're common pathways for a reason, at least I believe. And what I'm seeing, or what I'm starting to notice more and more, or at least become a point of my attention, is that there is no right spiritual pathway. There is no wrong spiritual pathway. Everyone is an individual, and everyone has a different way of doing spirituality, if it is something that you can say that you do. And there are many different pathways that you can take. Some are quite common, some are organized religions, some are frameworks and structures, which, in my opinion, no, I don't fully resonate with any religion. Like, I believe there are aspects or elements of truth in every religion. Likewise, I believe that there is some falsities and some lies and some indoctrination in every religion as well. Um, but I also believe that there is overlapping themes and there's universal truth in everything. Because the way that I sort of picture it is that each organized religion is sort of like a Venn diagram. So imagine that they are all separate circles, but they overlap in the middle. And to me, that is what I consider to be universal truth. If there is a common theme in every religion, or at least in many different spiritual belief systems and pathways all around the world for thousands of years, and people are reaching this point of awareness themselves through different practices, then I do believe, there's truth to that. And I'm not saying that everything else or everything that's just, only in one religion is false at all, but like the way I sort of see it is different religions are different interpretations or signposts of universal truth, of their own conception of truth, because as human beings, we just can't comprehend what spirituality really is. We can't comprehend what happens after we die. So we create these narratives and these stories to try and depict it, to try and create this structure or this framework, so we can sort of like understand it, at least to some degree. But in saying that, like, if you follow an organized religion, then that's great, and I encourage you to keep going into it. Maybe you are a big believer in Christianity, and you believe that Jesus is the path to salvation, and I think every religion in the world believes in Jesus. I don't know of a religion where they don't believe that Jesus existed and he was a spiritual enlightened being, just like the Buddha, just like Muhammad, just like many other people who have walked before us, just like some of these gurus. It's not native to just one spiritual belief system. Like, people can, regardless where someone is, or regardless what culture they're in, or regardless what spiritual path they follow, people from all over the world can reach these states of transcendence and liberation or enlightenment or moksha or whatever you want to call it, because every religion has a different term for the same concept of self-realization, of realizing that, or not just realizing, but embodying the truth that we are more than just this physical body, that we are currently experiencing the ego, which is just dividing us from truth, essentially, which is giving us a frame of consciousness which is individual, so we can live our own individual pathways, but it's not the universal truth. And that is something that every religion talks about as well and preaches, is that this is not the universal truth. Another common theme amongst every religion. So what I do is I believe that my path has taken me into exploring different religions and keeping an open mind, not just jumping on board with things, but sort of cherry picking the elements of different religions that I like. So I believe that the point of the whole spiritual journey essentially is to create our own religion. And again, I'm not saying that you can't follow an established religion. If that's what you want to do and you feel compelled to do that, then I'm sure that's right for you. But for many of us, probably you, if you are watching this video, if you're like me, is you might not feel particularly drawn to any religion, but you might believe that there is some truth or elements that you like within all of them. So instead of just jumping on board with whatever you're told, I think, at least my path, I believe, is to pick and choose, is to explore all of these different religions and modalities and things that are happening around us, and all of these different spiritual pathways, and then take out the elements that you like, take out the practices that you like, take out the philosophies and doctrines that you like, and start meshing up your own spiritual pathway. Start carving out your own track, using all these other different pathways as inspiration for your own. And this is something that I deeply resonate with, and this is part of the reason why I'm here, because I do want to learn more about these different pathways. I've learned quite a lot in the past few years about shamanic traditions, and I love it. I deeply resonate with the shamanic pathway. I think it's super cool, I think it's super interesting. I've reached some incredible states of consciousness through it, and I've learned so much, and I have some amazing teachers. I am so grateful for having that experience in my life, but at the same time, I don't want to be locked into just one set, into one pathway, into one philosophy. I want to explore different things, because there are so many nuggets of wisdom in every pathway, in every person. If I didn't come to India to explore these traditions, then I'd feel much more lopsided and maybe not as complete, because I do feel pretty good just with these practices. I'm learning a lot about yoga, and the philosophy of it. Like, yoga is a lot more than just doing the asanas and stretching your body. That's a very small part of it, but yoga is a comprehensive way of life, or a system and a philosophy and a way of thinking and a way of acting and doing, which is like, a lot of it I resonate with it, and it'd be cool to do more courses and like really delve into it, as well as just experiencing other pathways. Like, it'd be cool to just live as a monk for 3 months in a monastery or something and just experience that. Read the scriptures, learn what these people are talking about. Really, like, don't just see it from a superficial point of view where you're looking from the outside, but actually delve into it and experience it for yourself. Because I believe a lot of the world's ignorance comes from closed-mindedness, and because we don't explore different pathways, rather we get stuck to one set or one particular way of doing something, and we believe that that is the absolute truth, and anyone else is wrong if you do anything else a different way. But it's not true, because there are so many different ways of doing things, and there are enlightened masters, and there are people who have transcended in every spiritual pathway. Jesus, for an example, he did not follow Christianity. Christianity was built around his teachings, but he was an enlightened individual. Then, of course, you have the Buddha, you have Muhammad, you have different gurus, you have, like, again, there's a lot of people all over the world, in every belief system, in every philosophy, in every spiritual pathway, who have transcended the self, who have reached these states of liberation and enlightenment. So it's not like there's just one way that's correct, and this is something that is super crucial to understand, that there is no single pathway to ultimate reality, to God, to these states of consciousness that we can experience. There is no single philosophy or doctrine to live a happy life. There are many different ways you can do it. So don't just be stuck in one particular way. I do encourage you to explore different cultures, explore different traditions, explore different modalities, even if they seem sort of strange or a bit different. And I'm not saying that you have to be on board with everything that you experiment with or that you try out, because it's perfectly okay to, practice something for a little bit and say, no, you know what, this doesn't really resonate with me, so I'm probably going to leave this behind. Maybe I'll take some like elements or things out of it that I did like from it, but for the most part, I'm just going to leave it behind. Nothing wrong with doing that. But if you don't experience it, how will you know that? Because our view is very superficial. And often that's how it is. If we never actually explore a different religion or culture or belief system, and we don't like really dig into it and practice it, then we get this very superficial sort of view of it, and we just don't know what it's about. We might think we know what it's about, but we don't, because we haven't actually stepped in the shoes of the people who are doing it. With that said, take care of yourself. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment. Otherwise, hope to see you in the next video. Take care of yourself. Catch you later.